Welcome back to Emporio's Financial Literacy Series. My name is Lauren, and today I will be discussing the specifics of credit cards and debit cards and the differences between them. Let's get started. In this lesson, I will talk about the main differences between a credit card and a debit card, and the specifics and pros and cons of both debit cards and credit cards. Okay, now what is the difference between a credit card and a debit card? Well, even though they may seem similar and are often confused for each other, the most prominent difference is where the cards draw money from. Debit cards pull funds directly from your checking account to cover transactions, while credit cards are connected to a credit line which you have access to, normally with a predetermined limit. The catch to credit cards is that while you don't spend your own money up front, you will need to pay back the money you borrowed within your billing cycle, or you will be hit with interest. Another difference between the two are the types of fees that you could face. Typically, credit card fees come in the form of late fees, and sometimes foreign transactions and cash advances made with your credit card will incur fees also. With debit cards, you will most commonly run into overdraft fees, which are fees that banks charge when you try to withdraw more money than you have in your account. Alright, now that we've talked about the main differences between credit and debit cards, let's take a closer look at the specifics of debit cards. Along with the same purchasing power as credit cards, debit cards are uniquely used to make cash withdrawals at ATMs since they are linked to your checking account. Additionally, you don't need to make monthly payments on debit cards because you're spending your own money at the time of transactions, not a credit company's. Debit cards might require you to confirm your personal identification number, or your PIN, for some purchases. Although that is not always the case, it is just something you should be prepared to give. Another difference with the debit card is that while you don't have a credit limit, you have a daily purchase limit, which restricts your spending across a 24-hour span. As I briefly mentioned on the last slide, your debit card fees will differ from basic credit card fees. You will need to pay an ATM transaction fee each time you use your debit card to withdraw money from an out of network ATM. According to Investopedia, an out of network ATM is any ATM not affiliated with the bank that issued you your debit card. Additionally, you will need to watch out for insufficient funds fees, which occur when you try and charge more money than you have present in your account at that moment. You could also be hit by overdraft fees, which occur when you spend past your limit. Your purchase will go through if you have overdraft protection, but you will still be hit with that fee. Now that we have taken a closer look at debit cards, let's quickly run through the pros and cons of having one, starting with the pros. Firstly, you don't build up debt each time you make a purchase, as you technically do with credit cards. Unless you exceed the amount of money in your checking account, then you are spending money that is yours to spend and won't need to pay it off later. Another important pro is that if you have a poor credit score or don't meet some of the criteria of a credit company, you can still get a debit card so long as you have a checking account. There is no application or approval needed. We should also keep in mind, however, that there are also cons of a debit card, starting with that it limits your spending to whatever you have available at that moment in your checking account. You also will get less perks, like travel miles and cash back, and less fraud protection than a credit card holders, which is something to be considered when determining between the two. Okay, next up we have credit cards. According to NerdWallet, credit cards allow you to access a line of credit offered by the bank that issued the card. Unlike debit cards, where you spend your own money at the time of purchase, your credit card transactions are paid for by the credit issuer with the understanding that you will pay them back timely each month or each billing cycle. So, yes, you still end up paying for all your purchases if you use a credit card, but you pay cumulatively each month rather than while you are purchasing. You may also be given a separate line of credit for cash advances, which you can get through bank tellers, ATMs, and credit card convenience checks. It is important to note, though, that those will normally have stricter terms, like higher interest and no grace periods for paying them back. Your normal monthly balances will have a 21-day grace period, which is required by law before interest starts to accrue. One other thing to be aware of are annual fees. Not all cards will charge an annual fee, but those that do range from about $50 to $700. Okay, and lastly, we have the pros and cons of credit cards. The first pro is that having a credit card and paying your monthly bills on time and consistently will help you build a good credit footprint and boost your credit score, which will make big purchases down the road easier by giving you access to lower interest rates on loans. Many credit cards also offer rewards and travel benefits and have protections in case your card is stolen or lost. The cons are, firstly, that if you should miss a payment or pay late, the interest rates charged are typically quite high compared to other loan and borrowing options. There are also many possible fees that you could accrue, as well as some that are unavoidable. Credit cards also tend to fuel overspending and accumulation of debt, as people often feel that they can frivolously spend using a credit card with the mindset that they will find the money to pay it off later, even if they really can't. Additionally, while staying on top of your credit payments helps your credit score, late and missed payments can very negatively impact it as well. Here are the sources that I used for this video. Please check them out if you have any further questions or are interested in a deeper dive on credit and debit card basics. Thanks again for joining me today. Hopefully this video has taught you something new about credit and debit cards and will help you better navigate your financial future.